Okay, we're ready.
All right, excellent. So Chair Crane, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you to start the meeting.
Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Albright,
And Commissioner Albright, it appears you are muted.
The most often spoken phrase in 2020.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for the button, the unmute button is typically down in the lower left-hand corner of your screen.
You might try space bar.
There we go.
Got it.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Beckler,
Here.
Commissioner Holtkamp, Commissioner Nelson,
Here.
Commissioner Switchenbank,
Oh, and also muted. It appears. There we go.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wiedemann, Chair Crane.
Here.
Thank you.
Do we have a determination of legal notice?
Yeah, well, there was no.
Yes, there was no, yes, proper notice has been established. We had no public hearing items that required any particular notice beyond Brown Act compliance.
Matters from the public. Airport Land Use Commission welcomes participation in commission meetings. This item is limited to matters under the jurisdiction of the commission that are not on the posted agenda and items which have not already been considered by the commission. No action will be taken. Any matters from the public at this time?
I have no matters from the public at this time.
Okay. Regular calendar.
There are
Yes,
no
we'll just
items
go
on the
to matters
regular.
from staff.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I can go ahead and start off this item under matters from staff. And so the item in front of you today is discussion and possible direction to staff regarding modifications to the current draft Ukiah Municipal Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan to accommodate firefighting aircraft. And staff did prepare a memorandum on this item, which was posted with the agenda as well as was made available to the commissioners in advance of the meeting. And we received a letter from the city of Ukiah earlier this morning around about 11 o'clock. And unfortunately, due to the late timing of that letter, county staff has not had adequate time to review and fully analyze the letter that was provided and the action and direction that was received from the city council last night. So at this time, county staff respectfully requests a continuance of this item to a date uncertain, and we are available for any questions.
Well, anything from the commission initially? Okay. I see that we have members of city staff. Anybody up to weighing in?
Yeah, I'd be happy to weigh in, Chair.
Mr. Slaughter.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, Commissioners. Chair Crane, Craig Slaughter, Community Development Director of the City of Ukiah, and I won't make my primary comments until the Commission decides if it would like to hear this item today or take the recommendation of county staff and actually continue the item. What I will say is, although the letter was received by county staff today, none of the topics that we're discussing in this letter are new to them. We've been discussing the recommendation from City Council with county staff and their consultant for approximately last month. So there is no new information within this document that would, in our opinion, would require additional review. So we would encourage you to continue to hear this item for today and provide direction to staff. Thank you.
Am I the only one that got the letter? Or are there other members of the commission that received it as well?
Oh,
Yeah,
pardon.
Commissioner Albright, I've got the letter.
Yes, and if I can, sorry, my apologies for not stating that at the beginning. The letter is posted to this item on the public website, as well as it was emailed to all commissioners after it was received late this
Okay.
morning.
So, Eric, Greg Nelson here.
Yes, sir.
I just got to the office and read through it. I think I understand it. I might just add that Farm Bureau was encouraging us to move along quickly with this. So I don't know if we postpone the meeting, how long it will be. If it's next week, it's probably not a big issue. But if we are waiting a month, I know we've got nearby owners that have been chomping at the bit for years, actually get this done.
As much as I empathize with various landowners, I think there's more at stake here than that. But if the rest of the commission has read the letter and wishes to proceed, if there's a consensus among the body to proceed, I'm prepared to do so. Can we get a roll call on interest in proceeding at this time?
Chair Crane, if I could step in here for a minute.
Sure.
We believe we could get back to you quickly, probably within a couple weeks. We don't have any desire to hold up the club amendment, but I would, we have been waiting for this response from the city. We just got at 11 o'clock. I've been in meetings. I just got back to the office after 1. With all due respect to everyone here, I would really ask that you continue this item and give staff time to look at this. There's additional documents we've not seen before in this from Mead and Hunt and others. We just want time to do this right, and I would appreciate a continuance.
Noted.
So, Greg Nelson again. I'm sympathetic to that argument. A couple of weeks doesn't seem like the end of the world.
Mr. Beckler, Mr. Swithenbank, Mr. Albright?
Well, Commissioner Albright here. I'm at a point where I'd like to, I'm sympathetic to both parties here, but I know, as Commissioner Nelson has pointed out, this isn't new. I mean, there might be a couple of new maps in here, but the overall discussion, it's been going on for a while. I'd like to not continue it if that's a consensus. But I'll go either way. I'd prefer to hear something today.
Leonard, Randall?
Yeah, go ahead and continue with it right now too, if we can.
Randy?
Yeah, I'm of the same consensus. I kind of feel like we've been over this. I understand the option 2 was the one that the city went with.
I think the question at this point is, do we want to continue it at this time, or would we like to have the presentation at this time, and then we have a discussion, possible action? I'm inclined to hear the item.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we should hear the item, and we can delay it if we don't think we have enough information or not, or either way. But at least we get some information.
Okay, I think that's a pretty clear consensus to at least proceed at this time.
Yes.
So, county staff, would you like to have any comments, or should I turn this over to city staff?
I do have comments, so I will go ahead then and proceed with I have done some limited reviews, so I will do my best to address this with the time that I had. So Let me just dial in here. So the item before you today is the request for direction, as I stated, regarding the draft Ukiah Municipal Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan and some of the changes that have been requested to the document to accommodate firefighting aircraft at the airport. There's been a memorandum prepared by county staff on this item, which is attached to the website, as well as it was emailed out to the commissioners in advance of the meeting. And then, as I noted previously, there is the comment letter that was received from the city of Ukiah that is also attached to this item and was sent out to commissioners. So now for a little bit of the background here. On October 16th, 2020, city staff informed county staff of a potential change that was requested to the Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan to accommodate California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection firefighting aircraft. As county staff understands the issue, there is a potential need for additional runway length to accommodate CAL FIRE firefighting aircraft, which in turn requires an additional runway protection zone. The additional RPZ, stands for Runway Protection Zone, would further restrict development on several parcels from that which was shown on the public review draft of the Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan that was made available in July of 2020 for public review. The challenge with updating the current Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan at this point is that there's not a current airport layout plan that reflects this potential runway extension and this additional runway protection zone. Pursuant to the California Public Utilities Code, Section 21675A, an airport comprehensive land use plan must be based on the master plan or airport layout plan as determined by the Division of Aeronautics. And at present, the City of Ukiah Airport Layout Plan does not include this future runway protection zone. County staff has presented 3 different options in our memorandum that was prepared for this item. And so I do just want to clarify, as we go through this discussion, it's going to be very important to clarify whether or not you're referring to the options within the city's letter or within the county's memorandum, as they are both numbered options 1 through 3 and differ quite significantly. I would like to take a moment to try to address some of the comments from the City of Ukiah letter, and then of course we will proceed and hear from Mead and Hunt as well as the City of Ukiah staff. So first off, in the limited time that we had to review the letter, I do have a couple comments, and I first want to note that it does appear that when this issue was presented to the Ukiah City Council last night, that none of the options suggested by county staff were presented to the City Council. And so further, I want to now go through some of the points that were in the letter from the city. And county staff disagrees with the direction that the city received from the council last night for a couple reasons. And the first is relating to the evidence in the record at this time to support this change. County staff does not agree that there is adequate evidence in the record at this time to support making this change to the current draft of the Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan without further study and analysis. The second area of disagreement relates to the California Environmental Quality Act compliance. And this proposed change fundamentally changes the project that was analyzed under the initial study and negative declaration that was circulated for public review, and the public comment period closed back in August of 2020. In addition, I noted in the city's letter that they suggested reliance upon the past initial study that was done for the 1996 plan. And so I just want to note that you can't necessarily rely upon a past initial study for a past plan as the evidence to support a change 24 years in the future. And so for those reasons, staff cannot recommend for the commission to move forward with the option that was discussed by City Council last night. And we maintain our recommendation of option 1 in the memorandum prepared by county staff. And in addition, I just want to note for the record that the county is very supportive of this change, and we really want to see that it's properly studied and analyzed and made available for public review before any change is made to the documents. So next, I do know that we have Mead and Hunt available here on the line, and I am unsure if they would like to speak next or whether or not Craig Slaughter would like to speak next from the City of Ukiah. And I do want to know also who we have available here on the line is, so we have Director Schultz here in the room with me. We have Craig Schlatter with the City of Ukiah. We have Miranda Thompson and Ken Brody of Mead and Hunt, and Nick Johnson of Johnson Aviation, as well as we have Greg Owen, the airport manager, Sage San Giacomo, the Ukiah City Manager, as well as County Counsel Christian Curtis and Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kodrowski. So I'm unsure, Craig or Miranda, if who would like to take the lead next on this, and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Julia. I think Miranda and Ken had prepared a presentation, so I'll turn it over to them and I'll provide some comments at the end.
Great, thanks, Craig. This is Miranda Thompson with Mead and Hunt, and appreciate the time today to present a couple of additional alternatives to the commission. I'm going to share my screen.
And I think, oh good, yeah, it allows you to do that.
And what I have in front of you today is the airport land use compatibility plan, the draft that has been circulated for public review. And then I just wanted to confirm with either Julia or the rest of the commissioners that you received our annotated outline as part of your material packet.
Hi, Miranda. No, due to the timing that when we received it, we were not able to send that forward. So this is the first that they're seeing it here online. Yeah, that's just for the timing.
Okay. Well, I appreciate Julia including a line item in her memorandum, the county's staff recommendation or staff report to the commission, and it identifies that we would present some background information. So what we have put together is an annotated outline giving you an overview of the situation in front of us and in front of the commission specifically, and would like to go back to the graphic, which is the current airport airport layout plan that's included in the compatibility plan. And as Julia mentioned, the basis of the draft compatibility plan is on this airport layout plan, or ALP for short. And a little background. So the city has been, or the airport department has been approached by CAL FIRE regarding their intent to accommodate C-130 aircraft at Ukiah Municipal Airport. And the minimum runway length they indicated they would need to facilitate operations at Ukiah would be 5,000 feet in length. And the current layout plan, airport layout plan, shows a future runway extension to the north for an ultimate length or future runway length of 4,888 feet. So just shy of 5,000 feet. The airport layout plan does not include a scenario for 5,000 feet. However, state law requires that ALUCs be guided by the state handbook, and that's PUC section 21674.7. And the handbook really provides some flexibility to the commissions in a format similar to yours, a single purpose ALUC, to define the boundaries and criteria that consider local circumstances and be based upon the airport layout plan approved by Caltrans Division of Aeronautics. Caltrans has approved this ALP as the basis of the plan. Now, as Julia mentioned, there is no explicit provision within the ALP that shows this 5,000-foot runway. However, the ALP does show a existing and future navigation easements north and around the existing and future RPZ. So I'm going to point to my map here, and I'm going to zoom in. Let's just go to the north end initially. What we see here are the runway protection zones. These are trapezoid in shape, and the future one extends further north based on the contemplated runway extension shown on the ALP. The blue area includes the existing navigation easements on property that is not owned by the city. And then the future navigation easements are identified in purple. And early in our discussions with the technical advisory group that was established for this planning effort, we discussed the option of using or considering these navigation easement boundaries as a means to define a zone and criteria for the draft plan. At the time, it was not an option that was advanced. Now, something else I'd like to go back to is the 1996 airport compatible land use plan. So the current compatibility plan that's in effect is based on an older airport layout plan, also 1996. It assumed runway length that is the same as what exists today. There was no extension contemplated. The North RPZ was larger based on the minimums identified at the time and the FAA criteria in effect. And the Zone A asterisk that exists within the current compatibility plan covers a similar area as what is shown here for the existing navigation easements. And the criteria that would apply or does apply to the Zone A asterisk is all structures are prohibited unless they are aeronautical in function, and any outside uses would be limited to 10 people per acre. The current 2020 draft plan that was circulated for public review does not include an asterisk zone. It only reflects the existing and future RPZs at either end of the airport. And the Zone A is, the remainder of Zone A actually falls into what we now call Zone 2. And I'm going to now hop over to a different exhibit to show you the differences between these zones. So what you see here in black, the black boundaries represent the draft compatibility zones. The RPZs as shown on the ALP are shown in blue. So blue solid line and then a dashed line for the future condition. And then based on CAL FIRE's input regarding the need for a 5,000 foot long runway, we have shown the additional area that would be needed to protect for that future need by CAL FIRE. The colored areas that underlie the draft zones reflect the 1996 compatibility zones. So the areas in green that you see here is the Zone A asterisk that I was just discussing. And the idea or concept that we are presenting as part of today's presentation, these are two additional options not reflected in county staff's report, but option one would be establishing a new Zone 1 asterisk, just to take the same nomenclature from the current plan. And that would be applied to this thin area that would underlie an ultimate or conceptual RPZ to accommodate that 5,000 foot long runway. And within this area, and let me zoom in just a little bit more, we would bring forward the Zone A asterisk criteria. So again, that includes prohibition on any future development that is not aeronautically based. It would allow outdoor uses up to a maximum of 10 people per acre. And the current plan allows for automobile parking and some limited open areas such as farmland, vineyards, etc., which doesn't really apply for this more urban environment to the north, but maybe a consideration for the south. So again, just to repeat, it would apply with only this this hatched area that you see here to protect for the possibility of a 5,000-foot long runway, and the remainder of Zone A would continue to be within draft Zone 2, which is what's included in the current draft plan. At the south end, a similar recommendation is included. And if the extension were to the south, the conceptual RPZ or ultimate RPZ would be pushed about 112 feet. And these are the properties that would be affected, and most of which are controlled by the airport today. And again, we would simply retain the Zone A asterisk, so what would apply in the green area, to those properties underlying this Zone 1 asterisk. Option 2, which has also been discussed in the technical advisory group meetings, is just retaining Zone 1A asterisk altogether in its entirety. So that would be all the green area shown here. We feel that that is not necessary. It's certainly, it's not supported by the affected property owners. We understand the city has undertaken some outreach efforts with the property owners underlying this conceptual Zone 1 asterisk. It's also not something that's been being supported by Ukiah City Council, the Airport Commission, airport staff, or the Community Development Department. I'll stop here before advancing to the next section. Are there any questions about the zone boundaries?
So Greg Nelson here. I have a question. The I want to make sure I understand correctly. The 1 asterisk is in the hatched zone on both the north and the south, not the entire green?
That is correct. So within this gray dashed line, that represents the balance of what I'm going to call the ultimate RPZ or conceptual RPZ, and the red hatch that you see would be the Zone 1 asterisk.
Thank you.
Okay, then I'll move on. If there are no other questions, I'll move on to some considerations for the commission. Regardless of the option chosen, formatting the zone boundary and criteria as recommended here would be a difference from what was circulated in the draft plan. And something to consider in terms of timing. State law allows ALUCs to adopt revisions to an airport compatibility plan only once per calendar year. So, the option is the original schedule had looked at adopting the draft plan in 2020 before the end of this year. So we have a month remaining, month and a half. And that would allow for a potential revision in the future, such as in 2021, if needed. In terms of CEQA, which is what Julia addressed in her statements, in terms of significant changes, because we are not making a huge departure from what's in place today, we don't expect that there will be a significant impact to the underlying or affected properties because of the 1996 compatibility plan that's in place today. The evaluation that we did as part of this draft plan considered the land use restrictions in place under the 1996 plan. However, as part of any potential decision on this Zone 1 asterisk by the commission, we will certainly need to do our due diligence to review the potential implications to these underlying properties and present our analysis, our findings to the commission if this particular scenario or option were advanced. And that that meeting is a public hearing. So there would be, noticing to the community about this change to the draft plan. And we could also do targeted notifications to these property owners. As I mentioned earlier, it sounds like the city has already undertaken some initial outreach efforts with these property owners, particularly to the north. And we could do a similar approach for the commission if we wanted to advance this particular concept. So the recommendation that we have in this memo, which you'll see, I presume at the end of this meeting, is that we are recommending that the ALUC direct staff and the consultant Mead and Hunt to prepare an addendum to the draft compatibility plan to support option A, which is a new zone 1 asterisk. And in the addendum, we will present recommended changes to the draft compatibility plan policy chapter, which includes potential changes to the policy tables and policy map, as well as the background chapter. So again, all of this information will be presented to the commission at a public hearing, and as part of that deliverable, we will include an assessment from an environmental standpoint. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take on additional questions or pass it on to Mr. Slater.
So Greg Nelson again, I do have another question. To follow up on my previous question, if the only changes in where the red lines are within the gray dotted line, the rest of the green area stays the same. There are no changes to it. I'm just wondering if that's correct, if I'm correct assuming that.
I'm going to zoom out so we can see this a little bit better. So what this means is here we have zone A, that's everything in here. Can everybody see my hand, my cursor? I don't know if I need a specific tool.
Well, in zone A, that's the green area.
Correct.
A asterisk is the asterisk denotes that the parcel should be sought to be purchased by the airport to control it fee simple. So that green area is currently unbuildable under the current comprehensive land use plan. The reduction to the black line is what's in the current draft. The reduction to the dashed gray line with the red hatches just to the north of Talmadge Road and again at the south is what would be the extent of the unbuildable under what is being proposed. Is that correct, Miranda?
That's correct. That's correct, Craig. Excuse me, Eric. So I don't know if everybody can see my pen, but this area is the area we're discussing right in here.
And Miranda, we can see your pen just for your benefit.
Thank you. So that sliver, I'm going to call it a sliver, would be incorporated in a zone 1 asterisk, and the balance of the green area, which is currently zone A asterisk under the current plan, would fall into zone 2, which has less restrictions than zone 1.
So lands that are currently in green, that the entire parcel is unbuildable, parts that are not within the gray hatch or black lines would become buildable. So the little sliver on Garden, the piece to the north, the Ukeo Biofuels, and where the strip mall is and gas station, both gas stations on the east side of State at Talmadge, and extending to the south down that line, the tow truck place, the old green barn, all of that, those parcels would become, portions of them would once again become buildable. in the zone, in zone 2.
Thank you, Eric. That helps.
Miranda, did you have anything else, or should we move to Mr. Slaughter?
I have nothing else. Thank you.
I had one question. So this, you're saying that this dash line that's extension on the at the north end would allow us to get 5,000 feet on that side using just the north end, and we could also get some on the south side too. So in other words, there's more than just 5,000 feet of runway. We could get it on either end by doing the extension out.
That's the concept of preserving the potential area needed to accommodate the additional 112 feet that is not
Part of the 480, yeah, okay.
Yep.
So you take us up to the old runway length that's reflected in the future RPZ under the current layout plan, and then you give us enough at the north and at the south. Either one of those would be enough to get us to 5,000. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Slaughter.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon again, commissioners. I'll make my comments brief because I know we have some other folks that may want to speak. I'm really just going to summarize a few of the points that I made in my comment letter. And specifically, I wanted to start with something that county staff said in their opening remarks, that they had received the technical memorandum on October 20th. I want to reiterate that the points made in that letter are the same that we presented to the City Council yesterday evening. So this is not new information. Secondly, a central argument of county staff is that there is no support for the proposed 1* because it's not supported in the ALP. As Miranda just pointed out, that's actually not the case. That there is support for that because there is existing navigation easements to both the north and the south, which are depicted in the ALP. So that's another point of clarification I wanted to make for you all today. A third point here is that all of the options recommended by county staff in their memo don't move us closer to the finish line on this plan. When we, for the last week or so, we've been speaking quite a bit to all the property owners in the neighborhood of this airport, and there's a central theme. And this actually goes back to, the commission might remember when we first started to discuss the preparation of this plan, the input at that time was complete this plan with haste. The contractual schedule is actually accelerated with Mead and Hunt. We unfortunately, like everyone else and all these other plans, we had a delay due to COVID, and we're back at it trying to get this thing across the finish line. We have great concerns that proceeding with any of the options recommended by county staff will likely delay this project for 1 to 2 years, maybe more, and ultimately not result in addition to the impact on housing and economic development activities in the airport influence area. Additionally, it'll make it very difficult to actually achieve the 5,000-foot runway for future CAL FIRE operations and other operations of the airport. And I mean, I don't think I have to remind anyone, we just came out of another very intensive fire season with the mega fire in August, where we had, what was it, a million acres or so that burned, either the first or second largest fire in history. And so what we're trying to do is get this going. It is one of the primary duties of the ALUC to set policy for the in around the airport. So we're requesting that you do that and you protect this area within your own airport land use compatibility plan, and that will give our policymakers the guidance that they need to start working on feasibility studies and other to move forward with doing this actual runway extension. So just in closing, we encourage you to move forward with the recommendation that the City Council made yesterday evening, and as was just presented by Miranda, and let's get this plan done. Thank you.
A couple of things. Craig, did you get an email from John McCowan at about 2:15? Did that roll into you?
Well, I was actually just going to respond on that, Eric. I received that email. We've posted it to the public website. It's public correspondence from Supervisor McCowan, and in there he references he's also speaking on behalf of Supervisor Brown, or that they coordinated on this.
Okay, is that appropriate to read into the record at this time?
I would probably wait till we get to, any sort of public comment aspect. And I would like to ask, with the permission of the chair, we do have Nick Johnson of Johnson Aviation here on the line as well. And we would like to, county staff would respectfully request that he get an opportunity to speak as well.
Very much appreciate Mr. Johnson's contribution, and also like to hear from County Council after Mr. Johnson, if you're ready, Nick.
I'd like to, if you could, Chair, I'd prefer the Ukiah finish their comments. I'd like to hear all their comments. If Sage wants to speak, or others, the airport manager, I'd like to if we could get all their comments before we respond to those, our consultant as well as our staff.
I have no issue with that. Mr. San Giacomo, are you prepared? Mr. Owen?
Greg Owen, the airport manager of Ukiah. I just like to add that, this is something that I feel is going to really help protect the airport in the future. It's something that CAL FIRE is definitely looking at, having the option to have these larger aircraft use our airport. Definitely is going to really facilitate and help this community a lot better when we have these large fires. So I really feel like, what we're looking at here, we're so close to getting this done. As the airport manager, I want to get along with all my neighbors. I feel like getting this done, we're going to, relieve some of the stress of some of the neighbors in the airport, which kind of makes a good vibe for the rest of the community, and really keeps the airport in a positive light with the neighbors. So I think moving this forward and getting it done is really the priority here. And I think we're definitely on the right track. I think we're going to protect what we need to protect, and we're going to allow the neighbors that haven't been able to use that property for a long time to be able to develop their property. So I'm really thinking that this is really going to help everybody involved, and we're going to really protect the airport. And that's really the goal here. I mean, I definitely want to see C-130s in here. And so I think it's really the goal that I'm hoping to achieve here. So I really hope that we can get through this and move it forward.
Mr. San Giacomo?
Mr. San Giacomo, we're unable to hear you at the moment. It's *6 to unmute if you're on a telephone. I'm still unable to hear you.
Is it on our end?
No, I don't think so. It looks like he appears all unmuted, but we're unable to hear him.
Are you on a phone stage, or are you on? Okay. I think we'll come back to Mr. San Giacomo. Sorry, Brett. We'll try to get Sage back online. Moving on. Nick?
Hi, actually, I had a couple of questions for Miranda relative to the airport layout plan that's underlying the plan here. Miranda, is it the city's intent then to, in addition to the runway length issues that have been spoken about extensively here, is it the city's intent to also change from the tack that is right now to reduce the width of the runway and the associated changes to the object-free area, the runway object-free area, building restriction line, those sorts of standards issue associated with the airport.
And just pardon me, Miranda, before you respond, I just want to note for the record that Commissioner Holtkamp has just arrived to the meeting here and is on the line as well. So that's just a notation for the record. And please proceed.
In terms of the object-free area, all of the FAA-related setback requirements to support what's in play, as shown in the airport layout plan, stands. Greg Owen would be able to speak to those matters in particular. In terms of the compatibility plan, the greatest influence on off-airport land use conditions is the runway protection zones. And so that has been the focus of, our discussions to date and driving the Zone 1 concept. And the navigation easements, airspace surfaces, et cetera, also come into consideration. I think, as most of the commissioners know, the compatibility plan that's in place today, as well as the draft plan, consider 4 compatibility considerations. Noise impacts, so we look at the noise contours. We develop noise-specific, airport-specific noise contours as part of this master plan update to consider CAL FIRE operations. It did not consider C-130 impacts. If we compared the 2 sets of noise contours that was presented at an earlier ALUC meeting, you would see that the CAL FIRE noise contours are the drivers for this compatibility plan, despite the fact that it does not include the C-130 operations. The other is airspace protection. We are using the airspace plan defined by or included in the 96 or the draft compatibility, or excuse me, the airport layout plan, and that's being brought forward. A 5,000-foot extension would extend those surfaces even further. And we have overflight concerns, which is the general traffic pattern that's documented in the current plan, draft plan. And the last is the safety zones, which we look to the handbook, the state handbook, for guidance on the delineation of the zones. The other concept that was brought forward to the commission in an earlier meeting is to change those boundaries or consider modifying the boundaries beyond what is included as a sample set of zones in the handbook to follow geographic features. And that has been an option and could still be an option for the commission, but we believe that this has the least impact to the off-airport land uses while still preserving this option of CAL FIRE operations in the future.
Didn't hear a response to the question about the 75-foot that's shown in the ALP, but to Nick, we're currently a 150-foot wide facility, so
and
that hasn't dropped down yet. So, Mr. Owen, could you speak a little bit about your meeting with FSDO?
Yeah, well, our last meeting I had with the FSDO, which actually not FSDO, the ADO, Airport District's office out of San Francisco. The last meeting I had with them, we actually did discuss the potential of lengthening the runway for CAL FIRE operations. And one of the things they did mention was when we were approved for funding for our most current runway project, it was, we are a category B2 airport, which means we only need a 75-foot wide runway. And so it was actually mentioned at that meeting that there could be potential for us to need to keep more width than what had been previously discussed with the FAA. So our narrowing of the runway was a funding thing with the FAA. That was what the only amount of money they would fund was for a 75-foot width. So that's why we're there. But as far as setbacks and building restriction lines, those are all based off a runway center line. So narrowing the runway doesn't change any of our building setbacks, doesn't change any of our safety areas. That's all based off a runway center line, not edge of pavement or edge of the runway. It's all based on center line. So none of that is actually going to change if we do narrow to 75 feet. But we are working with the FAA on our phase 2 project, and we're hoping that things, now that things have started to change with the FAA and how they regard airports that have a CAL FIRE base, we may be able to keep that additional width as we move forward. But we are working with the FAA on this, and we are hoping that we may be able to keep some of the additional width. We probably won't keep all 150 feet because 150-foot wide runway it's wide enough to land a B-52 on, and we don't have the length for that. So, but it would be nice to be able to keep some additional feet if we can. But right now, we're still working with the FAA on that. But yeah, that's the why that was put in place. This was all started quite a few years ago, and it's just based off the category airport we are and what the FAA will fund.
Nick, did that address your question?
Actually not. So as Mr. Owen pointed out, the airport's a B2 standard airport from an FAA standards standpoint, and the C-130 is a Category 4 airplane based on its wingspan, and the separation standards for the runway object free area, the building restriction lines, the setbacks associated with that operation would either require that the FAA waive those standards, and particularly down in the southwest quadrant of the airport, just outside of the fence line, those standards are already even squeezed for the B2 standards that are applied to the airport. And would potentially encroach outside of it. And that, Miranda, that's the basis of where I'm coming from with the question, is that both the runway protection zone sizes and then that area to the southwest quadrant of the airport, are those setback standards applied? And I think it's been the basis of where we were coming from in raising issues around the actual airport layout plan and what standards are going to be applied to it. As the basis for the ALUCP that's on the table. So that's where the questions arise from. They're simply questions about what the intent is for dealing with those issues to actually accommodate the C-130.
Well, and also to that point, in order for us to change category airports, we would have to have over 500 operations a year of that aircraft. And so I don't know off the top of my head what the current count is, but having 500 operations of a C-130, that's what it would take to change our categories. So the C-130 can operate out of here as long as its operations are below that threshold. It wouldn't change what category airport, and it wouldn't change what setbacks we would need in any of those other items. So it also determines on how many operations we actually have. So, but all that is what we're hoping to look at in the future. What we're asking for here is just to preserve that area so we can do this analysis to see what potential is there and to hold on to it and move this process forward. So really what we're looking at is, and that's why it's going to be a 1 asterisk, is because we want to do the analysis. We want to move this forward. And that's what we're trying to do here. We don't want to give it up and then try to regain it later. We want to hold on to it now, keep that area, do this analysis, see if this is feasible, and then go forward. But we want to see this plan move forward and not sit on a shelf for 2 years. And if that happens, then we're gonna be stuck with the 1996 plan, and nothing's gonna move forward. So that's kind of what we're looking for.
Did we work out Sage? I see a phone number in the bottom right-hand corner. Is Sage online now?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you
We
now.
can.
All right, perfect. Thank you. And I apologize for the audio. And thank you, Greg. I think Greg summed up, really succinctly that this is, that there are certainly going to be more questions in the future as we explore, but that work is yet to be done. This is about preserving that option of moving forward. So just again, good afternoon. I appreciate the Commission's timely hearing of this item, as it's not a new discussion and in my opinion, does not need to be drawn out any further. I will keep my comments brief, given city planning staff, the city airport manager, the city manager's office, the Ukiah City Council, and Mead and Hunt are all recommending the Zone 1 asterisk. The City Council's unanimous approval for this recommendation was supported by a discussion that focused on 3 elements last night. 1, the establishment of the Zone 1 asterisk provides for the protection of the possible 5,000-foot runway, which is important for the future operation of the Ukiah Airport and wildfire protection for Mendocino County. There may be other important reasons as we move forward that will also reveal themselves, but preserving that option is tremendously important based upon just those two factors. Furthermore, this is not a change to the existing compatibility criteria in this region, given the recommendation maintains the exact same criteria for this small area that is imposed currently in the existing plan. Two, the second element that the council discussed, that the new plan establishes updated compatibility criteria for the surrounding properties, which will allow for the appropriate level of restrictions to protect the airport, but does not unnecessarily restrict property, thus allowing property owners to consider additional economic investment in support of their property and businesses, which is tremendously important and which is frustrating property owners currently at this time because of how old the plan is and the delays that have been imposed by COVID and other factors. The third element is that this allows for the timely consideration and adoption of the updated plan without further delay. As Mr. Owen indicated that and I think that Mr. Slaughter indicated that any of the other options cause unnecessary delay and drag this process out potentially years, causing the existing work and analysis to go stale. And the last thing we want to do is start over just to get back to the same point that we are today. Thus, please vote to support the Zone 1 asterisk and direct staff to finalize the plan for your final consideration. As you heard from Mead and Hunt, this will come back to you in its final form for consideration. And at that time, if there's anything that is revealed that is not appropriate or a cause for concern, additional direction could be provided at that time. But at this point, there's really no, I don't see any reason to draw this out any further. It's really a pretty simple, I think, decision to make for this afternoon. Thank you for your consideration and your time.
And Chair Crane, if I could just respond for 1 moment with your permission. Yeah,
Please, go
thank
ahead.
you. So I do just want to present, I fully understand the concerns about, getting something in place sooner than later. I would also like to point out that option 2 of the county's memorandum achieves that same goal, which would allow for the city to pursue a potential overlay over the properties that they are looking at ensuring are protected for any future runway extension, and would still allow, once that's in place, for the current airport, the draft that's been circulated and has the reviewed initial study and negative declaration to still be adopted, and ensuring that those properties are protected in the future. So I do just want to point out there are a couple different ways to achieve this same goal, and that the county staff memorandum did present an option that would potentially achieve that, which was option 2 on that memorandum.
Okay, thank you. I see Sage.
Yeah, just as a short concern related to that last comment, that's really a piecemeal approach. And the plan that is being suggested by the majority of the experts and the individuals that I've already cited allows for a comprehensive approach to be adopted immediately and doesn't impose a piecemeal approach that separates the north and south ends of the airport. So I would encourage, again, the extension of the Zone 1 asterisk to the north and south as recommended by Mead and Hunt and the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig, you popped up. Did you have additional comment or?
Yeah, Chair, if I may, I also like to add on to that response from the city manager, and just to mention that that approach of adopting an overlay is kind of like the tail wagging the dog when it comes to how we do planning, especially the role of the Airport Land Use Commission and compatibility planning and land use. And we also, in addition to that, it sets up a future incompatibility issue with the city's work related to if it was to do an overlay. So many different reasons that, again, would likely extend the process out for an additional year or longer.
And I just want to say respectfully, I believe the approach that's recommended and was recommended by the city council last night is also the tail wagging the dog, in that what we've heard here in the comments, even from Greg Owen, is that there's still study required for this. So what's being asked today is to essentially restrict this area without having done the analysis and review to support that. That is what is the fundamental concern by county staff.
Thank you. Miranda, you popped up. Did you have a comment?
I just wanted to add, from a planning standpoint, it's always a preference and a recommendation that we make that all local plans be consistent with one another. So there is a connection between the general plan, the airport land use compatibility plan, and ideally, for the sake of efficiency in planning and approving projects locally, the preference and recommendation is always to have consistency among these three plans, meaning the city's general plan, the county's general plan, as well as the Airport Land Use Commission's compatibility plan.
Thank you. Do we have county council comments?
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Gadrowski, Christian Curtis had to step into a different meeting. I have no presentation or comments. I'm here for questions. 2 points that I think that I've heard so far that I can at least make some comments on is that looking at the Public Utilities Code in 21675, to me it reads more like the overall planning of the airport is what drives the compatibility, and the ALUC helps coordinate amongst the entities, but doesn't necessarily drive the policy behind what should go first versus second. So my read on it is more consistent with county staff for that section in particular. And secondarily, on the CEQA front, I think certainly whatever the direction the ALUC goes in terms of the planning document, I do believe that we'd have to have some kind of additional CEQA review and possibly recirculation if we're looking at an updated project description that, based on this meeting, is consistently including C-130s. And given the runway length has never been at 5,000 square feet, my initial reaction is that that would require at least revising that, and that wouldn't be inappropriate for an addendum. That an addendum is what you have when you have an approved CEQA document and then changes after that point in time. I think those are my two primary points. If there's any questions from the commission, please let me know.
Okay, I think we'll take it back to the commission for discussion.
So Eric, this is Greg Nelson.
Yes, sir.
I'm conflicted. We've got the county is asking for a 2-week extension, and then I hear a lot of comments that it's going to cause us to delay for 4 years, and I don't understand how a 2-week pause would cause that much time delay in the whole process.
Well, I think what we have is two things that are being talked about. One is county staff has requested a 2-week or about a couple of weeks sometime to review the output from city council that was done last night. So that's one delay that's fairly minor. The other delay is the county's recommendation at this time, having not reviewed the city's work product and Mead and Hunt's most recent work product, is that the steps that they are advocating, that county staff is advocating, drive a multi-year shelving of the current plan to allow those things like the update to the ALP and other documents to take place. So we're at a fork in the road between, on the larger scale, the fork in the road is proceed with essentially what we have with this modification at this time, or shelve it and put it off to the side so the underlying documents that the county advocates are fundamental to our work be able to be accomplished. So there's a 2-week delay for them to review that they've requested, that Mr. Schultz has requested, and but then their current recommendation ends up driving a multi-year wait.
Well, I certainly don't want to see it extended, but I don't want to rush it and end up with lawsuits that are going to delay it even farther. So that's my quandary.
Okay. Any other thoughts at this time? General?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but
Yep.
I'm not sure why it is a problem to just move this thing along. I mean, nobody's extending the runway right now. It's just really making the plan go forward and kind of freeing up some of these boundary properties that are so impacted by the uncertainty. And given the times, it seems like the economic development interests might want to be considered here.
Well, as much as I appreciate the balancing that other bodies should be doing about economics and development and other considerations, as a single purpose body, our focus should be, and I believe needs to remain, on the airport itself. I think in this particular case, there's coincidental alignment with moving forward. But to me, it looks like we absolutely need to, for the benefit of the airport, preserve the restrictions on those, on the land, to allow for the potential for the 5,000 feet, because it looks like that's going to be incredibly critical to the future of the facility, which is the purpose of this body. But
we're not precluding that, are we?
I'm just saying it shouldn't be a focus. I mean, if it happens to come off as a benefit, that moving forward and relieving landowners to be able to build, if that's a byproduct of what happens here, wonderful. But to me, the focus needs to stay on the facility itself and protecting its ability to get to the size that it needs to be to survive. There's another section of aeronautics law, Division 9, Part 1, Chapter 9, 21670, creation membership section. It's the purpose of this article to protect public health, safety, and welfare by ensuring the orderly expansion of airports and the adoption of land use measures that minimize the public's exposure to excessive noise safety hazards within the area around airports, to the extent that these areas are not already devoted to incompatible uses. Should we relinquish, if we were to relinquish the protections provided by A to the limits provided by the draft, the current draft, without these extensions, we aren't doing that. So for me, the question here is, can we move forward with what Mead and Hunt has brought forward, what the city council has pushed, prompted from last night's meeting, in a defensible way? I'm not afraid of being sued. I would prefer not to be, but I don't think we should decide based on that. It should be whether or not it is defensible, not whether or not it's unattackable. So that's sort of where I'm at.
I feel like we pay Mead and Hunt to tell us this stuff, and this is what they're telling us is the best way. And I'm not sure. I haven't heard an argument about why that wouldn't be good, except that everybody would like a little more time, but
you missed the first part of the meeting.
I guess I did.
Yeah,
I did for sure.
Initial presentation from county staff. The initial presentation from county staff laid out county staff's concerns. And Greg's question about the 2 weeks relates to Director Schultz request for this to be put on hold for a week or two for county staff to review the output from Mead and Hunt and city council from last night. So that's sort of where we're at, is Are we directing staff to move forward with something at this time? Or are we not? I mean, what direction does the group want, interested in going? Any thoughts?
Yeah, Leonard here. I say have them move forward
With?
with the recommendations and stuff.
Which recommendations? The city ones or the county ones?
The city one.
Okay. That almost sounded like a motion.
If it was, I'll second it.
Yeah, somebody wants to state it.
Before we get that far, I sort of walked you off that cliff. I'd like to, would it be appropriate to read the McCowan's letter into the record at this time?
And Chair Crane, I actually believe we have Supervisor John McCowan available here on the line. So Supervisor McCowan, I'm unsure if you want to provide verbal comment or if you'd prefer I read the letter into the record.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Well, Supervisor Brown did independently review the agenda materials, and I have reviewed them as well. I think I understand all of the arguments, but our position is that we support moving forward and making the modifications as recommended by the city. I understand they're supported by Mead and Hunt. You might, however, read my first, or maybe it's my second sentence. It's very long and convoluted. A lot of work has gone into this. We're at the brink of achieving multiple community objectives that everyone agrees to. And Supervisor Brown as well, are incredibly concerned about the impact that any delay could have. Thank you.
And Chair Crane, if you would like, I can read the full content of Supervisor McCowan's letter. It's rather short if you would like me to.
I would appreciate that. Yes, please.
Okay, excellent. So Chair Crane and Commissioners, I appreciate the extensive effort by all parties that have gone into preparing the draft plan before you today. It is unfortunate that we are on the brink of adoption. There is not, It is unfortunate that as we are on the brink of adoption, there is not complete agreement on the technical and legal details of how we move forward with adoption of this draft plan in a way that advances the shared goals of the city, the County of Mendocino, the Commission, and the community at large, while also preserving the possibility for a future runway extension. First District Supervisor Carrie Brown and myself have both reviewed today's agenda materials and fully support the City of Ukiah recommended modifications as stated in their letter dated November 19th, 2020. We encourage you to move forward today. Thank you, John McCowan.
Thank you.
And if I may, again, I just would like to reiterate, staff would very much so appreciate if the commission would be willing to continue this item for even 2 weeks to December 3rd to allow us additional time to analyze the document provided by the city and perhaps provide even a revised memorandum that addresses both their memorandum as well as the county's position. But anyway, that is my request again.
And would there be any implications, and I'll direct this maybe to city staff, if that request for a 2-week period, does that change anything? I mean, I guess I just feel uncertain. I'm worried about if there are businesses that are impacted. I mean, I guess if it takes the county 2 weeks to read the memo, I'm okay with that, but I just want to move this thing. I feel like we always get here and then we stop for some reason.
Mr. Slaughter and Mr. Sangiacomo both popped up at the same time. Who wants it?
I can start, and Sage can clean up my comments maybe. So I would say, why wait? county, as I reiterated before, there is no new information here. All of the information that we are presenting here and we presented to the city council yesterday evening was made available to county staff on October 20th. They've had it for 1 month. All of the arguments that they made in their memo, they've made to us previously. I just don't see a reason to delay an additional 2 weeks.
Mr. Sangiacomo.
I'd only add that our technical experts, Mead and Hunt, have also reviewed the county's options and are supporting the city's option that is being proposed before you. So, the only thing that this will cause to do is, run up the meter on additional consulting time that I think is just unnecessary at this point, given Mead and Hunt, the technical consultants that have been hired by the city and the county, are supporting this option.
Thank you.
Well, I think we're pretty close to a motion here. I heard a couple of things on the edge of one.
Well, I'll defer to Leonard if he wants to make the motion.
Yeah, I'll do that. I move that we make a motion to continue on this with the city recommendation.
I
Here's
will
a second.
that motion.
First by Leonard, second by Commissioner Holcamp. Discussion on this item?
If I may, Chair Crane, staff would respectfully ask the motion maker if they would consider adding a sort of addition onto that motion that if we see, as moving forward, if we see problems or concerns related to this approach, if we can bring those back in front of the Airport Land Use Commission.
I think that's implicit.
I would want to make sure that that is explicit.
But I'd like us to make a decision. I don't have trouble with reviewing it again. I assume if we are going to build another runway, we're going to review it again too. So,
well, this is just about protecting the land use so that a tremendous amount of study and work can be accomplished.
Zone seems like a pretty good way to do that. Keep our options open. And I appreciated the extensive discussion that Mead Hunt presented.
Well, I think we got a first. Mr. Swithenbank, did you want to amend that motion or would you like to leave it as is?
No, we can amend it to what she was requesting there.
Okay. Commissioner Holcamp, you?
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion? Miranda?
Thank you. I just wanted to get clarification on the CEQA component. In my presentation, I mentioned that common practice would be for us to prepare an addendum identifying the changes to the draft plan and do our evaluation of any potential impacts to the underlying properties. Is that sufficient for the commission?
Deputy County,
wait, hang on a second. That was what I was alluding to when I said it was implicit. That was part of the option 2 that the city pushed forward. So that's why I was curious. Kudrowski?
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, and I think that's kind of where county staff is looking at the language that Ms. Krog put forth. I don't know that the addendum is the correct route for that. An addendum happens after you have an approved CEQA document. So that's something where if we see issues with that or wanting to bring that further for clarification, but that's kind of a legal matter in terms of what we can bring forward in correct procedure. We'll certainly pursue that and see what we can do with CEQA on that front. But I guess I wouldn't want specific direction on how to do CEQA from the Airport Land Use Commission to that fine of a point.
Miranda?
I just thank you for that clarification. Yes, in terms of the addendum, it's only to document the potential change to the draft plan. So common practice for us would be to bring forward the addendum would identify each policy or section of the plan that are recommended for change, and that would be considered by the commission at the next hearing. And the analysis is for background information. It's not a formal addendum to the CEQA document itself, as it has not gone through. It has not been adopted.
Well, and there's another element here, and that is this lengthening of the runway issue came up near the end, but not at the end of the review process. This whole document still needs to go around for a dog and pony show with the Board of Supervisors, the City Council reviewing the entire document to provide comment. For both of those bodies need to be able to provide comment, and then it comes back for review. So there still may be some other things that need to be addressed in the document that haven't been yet, that haven't been raised yet. So this is essentially, in my mind, inserting a modification to the map into the draft plan. If there's something more to that, then due diligence should expose it in the near term, and we'll hear reports about what that is. But this is essentially a modification to the plan. Mr. Brody, to the draft, sorry.
Yes, I just been talking with Miranda behind the scenes a little bit here, so she's reflected most of my comments. It's like my picture is rather out of focus. I hope you can see it well enough. I guess just the one thing that I would insert here, and since there are, I think that this is the direction things are heading. And Miranda mentioned the state statutes on how often a compatibility plan is updated. So if for any reason there are some issues that need to be resolved, including the CEQA, it's clearly going to push this into next year, which I think is probably fine. I think that makes sure that we've got all our ducks in a row, so to speak, and get it done properly, as long as it gets done, in the early part of the year and not let it extend on for a year or so. So, even speaking from the Mead and Hunt perspective, if we were going to try to move forward, and without having to do additional CEQA recirculation, but just simply to document what the changes would be and the impacts, that's still a bit of work. And then we're getting into an actual hearing schedule right around Christmas time. So I guess I'm speaking for Mead and Hunt's side of things, thinking that if this slides into the first part of next year, that's really not going to be harmful in the long run.
Well, it certainly will be less harmful to slide into next year than for us to screw this up now. So,
thank you.
Mr. Brody, do you think that the motion on the floor reflects accurately what Mead and Hunt thinks would be a good step here?
I think it probably does, with the additional comments from county staff, in particular with regard to what really needs to be done in terms of CEQA, and whether a recirculation, which takes 30 days, would be required. That obviously would slide things into next year. So I think the motion covers sufficient for, I think, at least for Mead and Hunt to move ahead with getting, as Miranda said, the addendum to the plan itself in place, which would clearly describe what changes would be made in terms of the maps, and there's some other very minor things that we've discovered during the course of the year, just in typos and things like that we would like to get corrected. But the main one being what we've talked about, because that does change a variety of the maps to reflect the runway extension, changes the overall airspace protection surfaces, which then has an influence on how we've drawn the airport influence area. So there's a lot of little wrinkles in here that I think we would like to, especially with the holiday season coming up, have the opportunity to make sure that everything is all internally consistent in the document, regardless of what the decision is made in terms of a CEQA recirculation.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or concerns at this time? Roll call.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Beckler,
Yes.
Commissioner Holkamp,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
No.
Commissioner Switzenbank,
Yes.
Chair Crane.
Yes.
Okay. 5-1.
All right, Chair
Okay.
Crane, I believe that concludes that item.
Yep. Matters from the commission.
Just to inquire, our next meeting then would be December 3rd.
No, it would not. Since the direction was from the commission to move forward with the recommendation from the city of Ukiah, I am not aware that we have any items scheduled for a December 3rd meeting, but I will want to follow up after. I'm not sure, Jim, are you aware of anything?
Nothing.
No, we have nothing for December 3rd. So I'm unsure when your next meeting will be.
Briefly, just quickly, before we get too much further, Deputy County Councilman Matthew Kudrowski, just to note for the record that there was no telecomment received for that prior item, so there was no public comment beyond those who were already in the meeting and who had an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Matthew. My bad. Anything else? Approval of minutes, November 5. We have a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve.
There a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Nays?
I think so.
Abstention?
And I apologize, Chair Crane, I believe you do need to do a roll call vote on that. So we heard
Oh.
a motion by Swithenbank, a second by Holtkamp, and
Roll
Jim will
call.
proceed. Yeah.
Commissioner Holkamp?
Is this on adjournment?
No, this
No,
is
this
on approval
is,
minutes.
I rushed it, sorry. The approval of the minutes. We need a roll
Oh,
call.
okay. Aye on the minutes.
Commissioner Switzenbank,
Aye.
Commissioner Albright,
Aye.
Commissioner Beckler,
Abstain.
Commissioner Nelson,
Aye.
Chair Crane.
Aye.
That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That motion carries unanimously. I mean, excuse me, with Commissioner Beckler abstaining.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Here a second.
Second.
All roll call, or can we do this?
All opposed, duck.
I think we've got that clear here. So that was a motion by Beckler and a second by Albright.
Yes.
Thank you.
All-
That concludes today's
all those in
items, I believe.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And we're done.
Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
afternoon, everyone.
You too, thank you.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank
Yes.
you.